Good day, my name is Kasi. I'm the CEO of Health Window in South Africa, and I'm going to show you today what the link is between patient adherence and sales. I'm going to do it by answering two important questions. The first is, how does poor adherence impact on sales? And I'll show you some interesting data from pharmacies. And the second question we want to answer is, what happens to sales if you effectively do something about poor adherence? There's a lot of initiatives out there. A lot of them just don't work because you can't see it in your sales. In subsequent slides, I'm going to show you a lot of data from pharmacy systems in South Africa, but just to preempt that, the slide on your screen shows you some extracts from a report by the World Health Organization on compliance. They start the report stating that adherence for patients suffering from chronic disease averages around 50%, which implies, just another way of reading that is that patients only take half their drugs. If they only take half their drugs, they probably only buy half their drugs. And if they only buy half their drugs, it means for pharmacies and for pharmaceuticals that whatever your year-to-date sales is, it should have been double. Alright, just the methods of how we're going to quantify adherence for the next few slides. We look at a patient, which is one unique line on your screen, buying from a pharmacy group and a pharmacy, a specific product, in this case antidepressants, at a certain price, and then we simply track month by month whether they filled their script or not. A 1 or a green cell means they filled their script, there was a dispense, and a red or a 0 cell means that there was no dispense. So you can see all the greens in column W were patients that filled their scripts. In the subsequent months, you'll see how the red gradually becomes more and more as they stop filling their scripts, and in the last month you have about 5 or 6 patients filling scripts out of 30 only. If we zoom out a little bit from that, you get a visual idea of what the red and the green does over a large number of lines over a few months. You'll see a lot of green lines on the left turns into a lot of red cells on the right, and that's lost sales to the pharmaceutical industry and to pharmacies out there. Right, the following groups we isolated in the cardiovascular disease area. It's data we pulled for one of our clients recently. 15,392 patients filled the script in a certain month. 7 months later, in the same pharmacy chain, only 7,912 filled their scripts. So it reduced from essentially 15,000 to around 8,000. If we, however, look at whether these patients don't just then go and buy elsewhere, we see, yes, that there is a moderate increment in the drop-off graph. Instead of 8,000 buying in the last month, it's rather around 9,000, but there's still a tremendous gap or cavity from the original group. A lot of pharma companies will answer to this and say, but listen, my sales in this pharmacy group has been going up or is quite level. I don't believe your data. Sad part is that the actual initial patient group, a lot of them did stop purchasing their products. The World Health Organization data is similar and says compliance is 50%, so you can't argue with the issue. The reality is what's happening is your sales force is generating a tremendous amount of new scripts to replace the patients that stop with treatment. So if your sales are going up or is even constant, it means that your patient base is being replenished by your sales force, and they are not, their effort is not going towards growth, but rather towards replacing thousands and thousands of patients that simply stop treatment along the way. Alright, so the question is, what happens if you do something about it? Health Window has a very specific methodology and systems to use in pharmacy. A patient that we don't manage, typically we can see 100% of the patients that started on a product, around 2/3 still fill the script 1 month down the line, and only a third 12 months down the line. So if Health Window manages these patients, we can see that the drop-off is only about 15% if we manage them, and about half by the year end. Now just look at the difference in trajectories on these two patient groups, and you'll see the one is much steeper than the other, and this is where the impact on sales matures. So how does compliance and sales really influence each other? You saw the drop-off graphs earlier, so look at the blue line and consider that maybe a lot of the patients stop treatment over the next 6 months, leaving us with only 40% of the population that initially started 6 months down the line. Yet the red line means that's your total sales, that's going up, and that only happens if your sales force generates loads of new patients to make up and replace those lost patients. What compliance does, if we manage these patients, is it lifts this drop-off graph. There's less patients that stop treatment, which means the new sales that your sales force generates can now actually goes towards lifting your top line, towards growth, instead of just preventing losses. Does it really work like that? Well, here's a case study. In this pharmacy chain, a certain customer's sales were rather flat, 117,000 Rand per month. 6 months later it was 115,000, so it's a 2% decline. And from there on we launched a compliance program basically in November, so we would have expected November, December to be slower than the rest of the year, but the sales actually went up 31% in the next 6 months. And just look at that trend line that we turned uh, with a compliance program. So does it work? Yes, if you can see it in your sales. HealthWindow has rather unique systems to work with pharmacies to resolve the compliance issues, and it benefits the patient. They have better outcomes if they take their drugs, and it benefits the pharmacy and the pharmaceutical company. If you're interested to learn more, our website is www.healthwindow.co.za. Please contact me. My name is Cassie, surname is Skitter, country code 27, area code 12. The number is 844 9000. Thank you.